Daniels is on the stand testifying as a key witness. Daniels has been detailing her first meeting with former President Trump, the sexual encounter she says they had, including revealing testimony about the days and years after that alleged sexual encounter as well. Prosecutors argue Trump orchestrated a $130,000 payment to the adult film actress ahead of the 2016 election in exchange for her silence about that alleged affair, and then falsified documents to cover up those payments. Former President Trump denies the affair and the charges. I want to bring in ABC News senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky outside that courthouse, along with ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci and senior counsel at Cozen O'Connor law firm Jerry Goldfeder. Aaron, what's the latest from court, and what do you make of Stormy Daniels' testimony so far?
It has captured the attention of everyone in that courtroom, even if Donald Trump himself and his son Eric, who's sitting in the gallery behind him, are doing their best to look disinterested and look away from Stormy Daniels. The jury is certainly captivated by her description of what she says was a sexual encounter between her and Donald Trump back in 2006 in a large hotel suite at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe, California. Stormy Daniels said that she had been there as part of an adult film production company sponsoring a hole at a golf tournament, and she described in vivid detail, almost too much detail for the judge at times, who asked prosecutors to move it along, how she was in the suite. She remembered being in the bathroom and seeing a leather toiletry case. She remembered Old Spice and Pert Plus. And then when she walked out of the bathroom, she said she remembered seeing Donald Trump there on the bed. Were you threatened? Prosecutor Susan Hoffinger asked her. She said, well, there was a power imbalance and he was sort of blocking the way, but she said she didn't feel threatened. Eventually the two had sex, she said, but as she began to describe that encounter, the sexual encounter, that's when the defense objected and the judge sustained the objection.
Jerry, Stormy Daniels has gone into a lot of detail here, as Aaron explained, not only about what happened that day on the golf course, that night at the hotel room, and also what happened thereafter. How is the defense going to cross-examine her on this and try to challenge her?
Well, they're going to try to make her into a liar, but I don't know how they're going to succeed. The level of detail is it's exquisite detail. And it sounds very believable. I'm not in the courtroom, but from all the reports, it seems as if she described their encounter with such vivid detail that it has to be believable. The room, the conversations, what he was wearing, what he wasn't wearing. It seems to me that the defense has a very difficult job. But look, the heart of the matter is that at a certain point when he was running for president, he decided that he could not have her tell her story. It was right after the Access Hollywood tape when they were crazed about making sure that American voters would not hear about this tawdry affair. And if the defense wants to take the tack of trying to disprove what she's saying, good luck to them.
And John, we're also hearing some interesting testimony. Again, Daniels is on the stand now as we speak. She said after this whole encounter that her life was amazing, in her words. She got a raise, she directed more films, she broke into mainstream films, she had a kid. But she's saying it was actually in 2011 that she first had another interaction related to Trump where someone told her to stop talking about it.
So we've heard this story before, but not obviously on a stand in a courtroom. So what Stormy Daniels is now speaking about, Diane, is that in 2011, she gave an interview to In Touch magazine where she talked about her encounter, her relationship with Donald Trump, her interaction. Didn't go much further than that, kept it very 30,000 feet. However, she's talking about an incident now in June of 2011 in Las Vegas. She was in a parking lot, apparently coming out of a Mommy and Me class with her child. And she says a man approached her and threatened her to not continue telling her story about her encounter with Donald Trump. The man allegedly said, according to Daniels, quote, he told me not to say anything at all and I was scared. Now, according to our team, Stormy Daniels apparently getting emotional on the stand while recounting this. You know, she's been wearing glasses, according to our team, raising them up, not to get them foggy as she's becoming, you know, pretty emotionally upset. And now it's also interesting that jurors heard about a blog post during the testimony of Keith Davidson, who sent a cease and desist letter to the blog, getting the post removed about that exchange, about that sexual encounter with Trump. So again, that's 2011. So let's just, you know, bring the timeline out to everybody here. 2006, the sexual encounter. 2007, the last time Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels see each other. 2011, the magazine interview, this encounter with a man approaching her in a parking lot, basically saying, stop talking about Donald Trump. We are building closer and closer to the crescendo, if you will, of 2016, Keith Davidson, Michael Cohen, catching and killing her story.
And Jerry, up until now, the judge has warned the prosecution, particularly when talking about the sexual encounter, that we don't need all the details here, right, to sort of slow down in that respect. How important are the details to this part of the story? What happened after and now as she starts to try to tell her story, and when she says she was first told to keep her mouth shut?
Well, these details present a texture for the jury to have a feel of her truth-telling, of her recollection of all of her encounters with Donald Trump. So that's the reason why she's being asked about all these details. But the judge really doesn't want to go over a line that where the details become so prejudicial that it's unfair to the defendant. And it's not a bright line. So the judge has to make a determination when there's an objection that there's a little too much detail in her stories. But there's certainly enough in her testimony to demonstrate that she's not making this up on the stand, and it appears that she never made this up at all, that her recollection of all these details that the prosecution has elicited from her is truthful. And that being the case, that's really what the takeaway is by the jury. If the jury does decide that they do believe her, then it becomes important in terms of the catch and kill scheme. But even if they don't believe all the details, the catch and kill scheme that Trump and David Pecker and the others conspired to have so that her story won't become public, whether the jury believes that or not, they did do that, and they did pay her. And essentially, that's really the most important fact that that the jury needs to take away in terms of what the prosecution is trying to prove.
And Brian, excuse me, and Aaron, she's talking a little more now about trying to get her story out. Walk us through the latest from this testimony and how Stormy Daniels is describing all of this.
This is all the aftermath of the sexual encounter that she spoke about with Donald Trump, and how she is trying to own her own narrative here against what she described as this pressure to stay quiet even before the 2016 election, sort of a prelude. I wonder if some of the details, how some of those details, especially of the alleged sexual encounter, are playing with the jury. The way Stormy Daniels spoke and the way Susan Hoffinger, the prosecutor, elicited some of the details about what went on in that hotel room in 2006, it almost made it sound like you were listening to a victim of a sex crime testify in court. And that's nowhere near the allegation here. But that's what it sounded like to me when I was listening. And I wonder how that ultimately does play with the jury. I expect the defense on cross-examination, when it comes, to home in on that, to reiterate that this was a willing encounter, and that Stormy Daniels knows nothing about the hush payment other than she received it. She doesn't know anything about how it was booked in the general ledger of the Trump organization as a legal expense, and why or why not that may be pertinent.
And John, now she's talking a little bit more about how we went from that encounter in the parking lot after the In Touch magazine interview to when she started shopping her story around.
Yeah, so what Daniels just testified on the stand, Diane, is that she authorized her agent at the time to shop around her story. This was in 2016. Daniels just testified, quote, "My motivation wasn't money, it was to get the story out." She goes on to say it was motivated out of fear, not money. Susan Hoffinger, of course, the lead prosecutor in the case, asking her, why didn't you ask for more money, as opposed to $130,000, which Cohen offered, and she responded, because I didn't care about the money. Now, as Aaron just noted, I think the reality of it is that Stormy Daniels' knowledge information in real time is starting to come, to a close, if you will, right? Because at the end of the day, she just wanted to get the story out there. That didn't happen. She took the money and was silenced for a period of time. Eventually, obviously, the story did come out there, and we know Daniels very famously gave a very big interview to 60 Minutes where she did detail all well after the 2016 election, to be clear.
Well, now she's detailing it on the stand. Jerry, what do prosecutors ultimately need to prove with this witness? What are the key points that they're going to try to hit on and make sure to hit on with Stormy Daniels?
That she was paid $130,000 to keep quiet, period. End of story. The reason why she wanted to get the story out is kind of irrelevant. All the relationship she described with Trump that included this tryst is kind of irrelevant. The fact that he took her up to Trump Tower and introduced her to everyone because he was comfortable with her, that's also irrelevant. The only thing that really matters is that this real live person who seems to have a pretty good recollection of all the details of that encounter, that this real live person wanted to tell the story for whatever reason, and they paid her to shut up. And that was the triggering point for the payment, for the cover-up, and then the prosecution needs to move on to demonstrate that the reason that Trump did this, his intent, was to commit or conceal another crime, which is to influence the election by unlawful means. And that's really the heart of the testimony. All this other detail that we have, that the prosecution has elicited from her, is just to demonstrate that she's a real live person who's telling the truth. That being said, she was paid to be quiet. And what are the reasons she was paid? What was the main reason she was paid to be quiet? It had to do with the election. That's the goal of the prosecution. That's what the jury needs to believe in order to convict Donald Trump.
John, what are you hearing from court, just in terms of the dynamics, the jury, former President Trump, and his son in the courtroom today as well?
Everyone is just
War ready like Tracy T. You did. Rest on rent. Just might pull up on my slider. All my diamonds black. You can motherfucking light 'em. All these pussy niggas wet. I'ma murk 'em every night. Pull up screaming blick. My motor out of Viper. Got 100 million flat. Like my motherfucking idol. I might eat it, I might lick it. But I swear I'll never bite 'em. Every time I dress myself, it go motherfucking viral. Pussy niggas still a swag. Bring my shit back like recycle. I'ma ask her for some head. I don't know that hoe, I act like she dead. Insurance on my money like a red. Every time my sis lick the cleavage, fuck her on the $10,000 bed. I can never love a fucker ass. Suck my dick like Bieber, no but head. Cocaine white like Justin Bieber, bitch. I might show the rats and tease the bitch. I might want it, but I don't need the bitch. I been flooded out by Jesus, bitch. I want your piece of Little Caesar, bitch. Knife water by my diesel, bitch. I don't wanna talk a sense, nigga. No teacher, we talking shit. That's cool, I patting all the styles. I just want that net like a giraffe. I like fish and water, I'm about. 17.5, I shave it like a snap. Play that, watch the kids like a day count. I don't play game low, I'm not the foul. I got Hot Wheels like a motherfucker trap. Chanel vintage, but this shit around. Yeah, your time. Yeah, gon' bite on my swag is a verse. I done the swag and I pull up on bitches dressing all while I'm at the shirt. Yeah, no bitches I whip out, she suck on my private. Suck it. The nigga play on my country, I'm bad in the stick, I'm folding like a wallet. Ooh, I swear to God, it's only one of me and these bitches 3D like a child. Ooh, I'm walking through it like tons of the ones and these bitches grabbing on my phallus. Ooh, poor nigga try me, I swear like a Lil Woody, pull up and pop at his nugget. Bitch, I got water on, look like I'm fresh from Hawaii. I get this time my motherfucking life. I'm about everything I want, I can think twice. You can turn the ice straight off, baby, your baby ice. Baby, as long as I live, we'll want to wait. Yeah, every time. Yeah, hey, hey, cause
Prosecuting Attorney's Qualifications Commission is evident due to the actions of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. My lawsuit against Fani Willis, Marvin Arrington, and the Fulton County Ethics Board stems from this necessity. Stalking, often misunderstood, involves repeated, unwanted behavior causing fear or distress. It's a serious issue affecting millions annually, with most victims knowing they're stalkers. The Netflix documentary, Can I Tell You a Secret?, sheds light on this issue. Stalking behaviors include harassment, intimidation, and even violence. Despite its prevalence, misconceptions persist, hindering support for victims. Stalkers exploit various tactics, from relentless calls to spreading rumors. They often target former partners and engage in something called proxy stalking, which involves third parties. Victims endure emotional trauma, and the risk of violence is significant, especially with intimate partner stalkers. The failure to address stalking perpetuates the cycle of abuse, highlighting the importance of legal measures like the Prosecuting Attorney's Qualification Commission, or PAC. It's crucial to support victims and hold accountable those who neglect their duties, ensuring justice for everyone. Stalking is repetitive. Stalkers create a pattern of repeated unwanted attention and contact towards a person. It's an obsession I don't believe they themselves even realize. Their focus is unrelenting towards the victim. A stalker harasses and intimidates a person over and over without ceasing. Examples of stalking are showing up at someone's home or their job uninvited. If Fani Willis investigated my case, she would have spoken to my secretary at the Emory Healthcare, who would have shared with her, my stalker repeatedly came to my job to harass me. repeatedly calling victims at unreasonable amount of times. It could be up to 50 times a day, but they'll make up excuses or lie as to why they had to call you 50 times. Stalkers will cash app you money unsolicited, and you have to block them from sending you money. Stalkers will repeatedly wait for you at your car and surprise you with the "I was just in the area." Stalkers will also call you from other people's numbers once you block them. Stalkers will leave threatening voicemails on your phone, vacillating between thoughts of undying love and hate if you do not call them back. They'll send you letters to their victim's job in an effort to try to get them fired. They will try to blackmail you. They file motions to appeal their restraining order because they truly believe they are not a stalker. Stalkers get other unknowing and knowing third parties to harass and intimidate you. Proxy stalking. Stalkers will stalk former spouses, friends, sexual partners, or people they sexually assaulted. They spread rumors about their victims, and they do everything they can to belittle and humiliate their victims. Once they realize they can't have you, disgust for their victims sets in, and they try to destroy the person's life. When people repeat rumors they heard from a stalker, they are unknowingly participating in stalking the victim. There are approximately 13.5 million victims of stalking in the United States every year, and I want to give you a few stats. 67% know the person stalking them. They aren't strangers, as most believe. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men are stalked. 16% of transgender people, 9% know their stalker from work. 75% receive unwanted calls. 57% have their stalker show up unexpectedly. 52% are surveillance. 40% are targeted by intimate partners. They threaten to share intimate images of their victims. 74% of former intimate stalkers report violence. 1 in 5 use weapons to threaten or harm their victims. It increases for intimate partners by 3-fold to make it a fatality. 22% of them will post inappropriate things and personal information of their victims online. Some common misconceptions: they're strangers. They're not. They will eventually stop. If you ignore it, they will stop. Online stalking is not as bad as physical stalking. For those listening, there's a 24/7 National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-SAFE or 7233. There's also a 24/7 National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE. Victims of domestic violence and stalking deserve to be heard, especially when faced with reluctance from authorities like the District Attorney, Fani Willis. The fear and anxiety victims endure are compounded by the constant vigilance required to protect themselves. In my own experience seeking justice from Fulton County DA Fani Willis, I discovered concerning actions that were brought to my attention from an investigative reporter. It revealed collusions between my stalker, aided by Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington, who also served as my stalker's personal attorney. This conflict of interest is alarming, as it compromises the very justice system meant to protect victims. Despite presenting numerous witnesses, DA Willis did not interview one single witness. Over 20 were presented, including my pastor after he joined my church. This pattern of neglect and misconduct persisted, violating my rights under Marcy's Law as she offered a plea deal without consenting me. The passage of the Prosecuting Attorney's Qualification Commission is a vital step towards accountability, providing recourse for citizens failed by the system. Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington chose to take a stalking case against a state representative, all while he oversees and appropriates funds to the DA's office. As a criminal defense attorney, Fulton Commissioner Marvin Arrington defends his clients in the same courtroom he appropriates and has unlimited access to the judges. DA Willis is charged to represent victims in Fulton County, the very people Commissioner Arrington's private clients seek to dismiss claims against. Two attorneys, family friends, law school classmates, opposing each other with one having the authority to chop up charges to benefit the other, and one with the authority to vehemently advocate for funding. A perfect storm for an unknowing victim. During jail calls, Commissioner Arrington and my stalker plotted various actions, including manipulating judges, leveraging political influence, and conversations that were had between Commissioner Arrington with Fani Willis before she was even sworn into office about my case. Commissioner Arrington discusses getting favors from the chief jailer of the Fulton County Jail on behalf of my stalker, and the criminal behavior of other elected officials, past and present, is discussed on these jail calls. Despite presenting numerous witnesses, DA Willis contacted no one. DA Willis and ADA Yolanda Mack admitted awareness of judges favoring Commissioner Arrington. She never fought for me as a victim, a Fulton County resident. She was always in the pocket of the commissioner and retaliated against me after I contacted the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women, because DA Willis repeatedly allowed my stalker to be released on bond for non-bondable crimes and failed to notify me of court proceedings repeatedly. She never mentioned to the court her conflict of interest and that she was discussing my case with her close family friend and my stalker's attorney, Commissioner Marvin Arrington, before she was even sworn into office. The Georgia Democrat Party's decision to grant a convicted felon, previously jailed for 1 year for aggravated stalking, allowing him access to voter data poses a serious risk to every Fulton woman. Campaign software driven by GPS data exposes private information of registered voters without considering the implications of allowing unqualified individuals on the ballot. Today, accountability is paramount, especially with the Fulton County DA failing to assist citizens affected by domestic violence, stalking, or unjust incarceration. The establishment of PAC offers a crucial avenue of justice, addressing challenges faced by non-legal professionals in navigating complaints against misconduct. Recent legislative changes led by Commissioner Bob Ellis ensures that offices funded by Fulton County adhere to ethical standards, safeguarding the rights of citizens. The communities I represent are disproportionately affected by DA Willis's office, particularly those with underperforming schools. Despite laws mandating timely indictments, many languish in jail for months without resolution. Fulton County's jail stay average is 291 days. The national average is 30. 37% of inmates are unindicted in the jail. 3 people unindicted have sat in the jail longer than 2 years. This prolonged detention, often in overcrowded conditions, reflects a failure of justice and basic human rights. It's imperative that the legal system upholds its duty to prosecute promptly or release detainees. Each person in the jail is someone's child, parent, sibling, or loved one. The Georgia General Assembly set clear guidelines for DA Willis, requiring her to indict individuals in custody within 90 days. Those arrested without bond must have their case presented to the grand jury within the same time frame. There are no exceptions to this law. If individuals have been incarcerated for over 90 days, while the DA takes extended vacations with her special prosecutor, it's a direct insult to Fulton County families and those in jail. Consider this: sleeping on the floor for 2 years without facing a judge is not justice. It's a glaring example of inhumane neglect, which the law is designed to rectify, either prosecute or release. The ACLU reported 503 unindicted inmates that were incarcerated at least 90 days. 447 were sleeping on the floor. DA Willis is required to notify a judge if a person remains in jail on felony charges without indictment for more than 45 days. Sheriff Labatt faces a significant challenge with his colleague neglecting her duties, leaving him to manage an overcrowded jail. If DA Willis addressed the backlog as requested, lives could have been saved. Everyone deserves justice. By the end of 2023, 90% of the people in custody were Black. This is not a time to give awards to people for failing to do their job. The Georgia General Assembly enacted a law mandating bail amounts to reflect a defendant's income. Excessive bonds can be rectified swiftly under these laws. Mismanagement in the DA's office shouldn't jeopardize someone's livelihood. Before I go to the next speaker, I want to say one last thing. DA Willis, backed by Commissioner Arrington, has spent millions prosecuting 2 celebrities. This allocation of funds adversely impacts the residents I represent. Standing up against political figures like Arrington and Willis is daunting. Living in a system that feels broken and corrupt and facing retaliation for protecting my family is disheartening. Yet I am supported by brave individuals that were not scared to stand next to me. There are also many brave individuals that have been contacting me about their stories. To those listening, don't hesitate to share your story. You have a community of supporters that will assist you. If you've been victimized by Commissioner Arrington or DA Willis, contact my office. Remember, victims should never blame themselves for things beyond their control. There's no excuse for anyone to violate, harass, intimidate, or stalk you. Trust your instincts and take steps to protect yourself. I'm going to have L.A. Pink from the Street Groomers come and speak.
Good evening, everyone. I am L.A. Pink. I am the president and first lady of Street Groomers. I stand here today in honor of our state representative, Misha Maynor. I hate that she has to endure the things that she has had to endure, but we've been talking about this for years, the abandonment that Fani Willis have left in Fulton County, the abandonment that she have left to the families that have lost their loved ones, to the jail, to the streets, and the police brutality, are just the things that are going on in our system. We have Nigel Collins. We have Jamarian Robinson. We have Kane Rogers. We have Jimmy Atchison. These cases are indicted cases that have been left undone. Money that have been gathered from our commissioners to attack these situations that have not been addressed yet. We have a young man that have been in jail for 5 years, waiting for just a trial, waiting to see a judge, and have not yet seen a judge. There are so many things that she can be doing instead of chasing Trump and chasing after the YSL case. A case with the YSL that we feel that is more of a love affair and a retaliation of someone that's in the indictment. So today we stand here because enough is enough.
My district is somewhat big. I wanted to get some leaders from all sides. I'm going to have Mr. Mike Roberts come up and speak.
Good morning. My name is Mike Russell. I'm a resident here in Atlanta, and I stand this morning humbled and proud to be with Representative Maynard and L.A. Pink. These are two very strong, courageous women that do everything in their power to help those who are less fortunate, those who feel powerless in our county and in our city. L.A. Pink, for those of you who don't know her, she fights every day for the homeless, for the victims of our society. She feeds them out of her own pocket. Representative Maynard has done nothing but reach out and try to help everybody in our community, starting with the youngest amongst us. And I am appalled at what's happening in our community today. And it is time to end the cult of corruption here in Fulton County, starting with DA Fani Willis. She has done everything for everybody else except for the people of Fulton County. Why is she in New York and D.C. raising funds to be reelected as the DA in Fulton County? I've had victims come to me. I'm not a public official, but they know that I will stand up for them. I've had victims come to me, a family, a mother and a daughter, whose loved one was murdered over a year ago. Their trial of the perpetrator keeps being delayed because Fani Willis says she has more important things to do. What is more important than a murder trial? And this guy is out on bail with an ankle bracelet, and he's a previously convicted felon. Just this week, I had a businessman who had $30,000 stolen from him. The perpetrator, a known felon, had a large screen, flat screen television delivered to her residence. Atlanta Police Department did the investigation, handed the evidence to Fani Willis' office. Without contacting the victim, she dismissed the case. And then you have the overcrowding in the jail because she fails to prosecute when we have people there up to 5 years who have not seen a judge in a jail that's being mismanaged by Sheriff Labatt. The culture of corruption needs to end. And they're all together. Sheriff Labatt, Fani Willis, Marvin Arrington, Natalie Hall. You see one, you see them all. And every one of them have violated the trust of the public. Natalie Hall cost us $1 million stalking a victim. She was not charged by Fani Willis, her friend. Let me say that again for those of you who don't know. Commissioner Hall cost the taxpayers of Fulton County $1 million because she stalked her victim that worked for her, planted tracking devices in his vehicle. She was not prosecuted by our DA, Fani Willis. Why? This corruption in Fulton County needs to end, and our lawmakers need to take them and hold them to account. And I'm hoping that the voters of Fulton County are paying attention and will vote for a clean slate of candidates and stop this cult of corruption in our county.
I have two more individuals that have been personally impacted.
My name is Joel Watley. My last name is W-H-A-T-L-E-Y. I'm the father of Casey Watley, who's been incarcerated in Fulton County Jail for 5 years now. And as we're starting to see, there's a pattern of corruption within the district attorney's office. My son, like I say, has been incarcerated 5 years. The attorney he had was a current, a prior district attorney who had worked with Fani Willis previously. They came back and stated that they found evidence in my son's case after there was no evidence. They came back and said they found evidence and they had found fingerprints. Well, it came to find out in court that that was a lie. They said a second testing had been done and my son's fingerprints were found on the scene, and that was a lie. The attorney, Darrell Korn, tried to get my son to take a 20-year plea deal by falsifying evidence. And as you can see, corruption is just running rampant within Fulton County Jail. It's time for something to be done, man. We got to do something. Y'all allowing these kids to be locked up, knowing that lady is corrupt. She spent the money that was meant to help the kids, and then she RICO'd them. She RICO'd all the young people after she spent the money that was meant to help them, to create a safe environment for them not to have to be out here in these gangs. Now let's ask her what she did with that money. It's time to do something to clean up Fulton County. We're not talking about tomorrow. We need to start today. You got over 800 people in that jail who shouldn't be there, haven't been indicted, they won't take them to trial. How is that justice? And you know what the crazy thing is? Fulton County sit back and watch it.
Good morning. My name is J. Wesley Day. That's J-E apostrophe space Wesley, W-E-S-L-E-Y, Day, D-A-Y, David Apple Yellow. I want to first give an honor to God who's head of my life, and I want to thank you, Representative Maynor, for giving me the courage to tell my story. In 2018, I was beaten in a hate crime. They called me homophobic slurs, fags, sissies, and I videotaped my assailants. You would think that it would be an open, shut case, but instead, the criminal justice system here in Fulton County vilified me. They first charged me with the fray. Then they upgraded that to a felony. As a result, I lost my job with Delta Airlines because I reported to Delta that I had a pending misdemeanor. Delta was the one who came and told me that I had a pending felony. As a result, fast forward nearly 6 years later, none of my
When the rest, she get slapped. And then bitch with my man. About to play with these bands. About to play with these bands. You can't come to the land. Got that bitch in my hand. That motherfucker gon' dance. That motherfucker gon' dance.
And tell me that it's okay. Cause your agenda is to get paid. And get mad when it don't go your way. I know y'all look at me like I don't go through things, but I'm human. I know it's hard sometimes, but try to keep in mind that I'm human. Fuck all the fortune and fame, forget the name, I'm a human. I can't believe all the under the table shit they doing. I'm tired of fingers pointed at me. I'm tired of all this weight on me. I'm tired of everybody want a piece of me. Shit, I'm not an ATM machine. What do I do when I can't do what I do? How can I win if I can't win with truth? Got a couple of dead homies that I promised I would make it out this shit. And I know that God's hands is on me, nigga. I'm gonna make it out this shit. No weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Like, share, subscribe.
The storm's over. I admit I talked to Miss McGlynn. FYI, that's my second mother. I admit that I asked her, how am I gonna get the world off my shoulder? She said, son, don't you lose it. Sometimes you gotta go through it. They can say what they say, but at the end of the day, they cannot deny your music. Cause your music has touched people. It inspired all people overseas, everywhere. Don't worry, don't care. Cause the anointing is on you. And that's why these haters is at you. So just keep on doing you, baby. You don't have to give these fools an explanation. I admit it, I admit
to support Barbara Sylvester Kelly because I believe he's innocent.
What have you seen in the trial so far? Do you think it's a fair trial?
Yes, I believe it's a fair trial, and I believe now y'all can really hear the truth. It's not a one-sided story no more. He's been defamed in the media, and every media is biased. So now y'all get the truth.
Do you believe some of the witnesses, Jerronda Pace, the stories that she told?
No, they're too inconsistent.
There you have some of